we are fortunate in the next segment of this conference, and we're in the final stages now. We have four friends of mine who have joined us from different parts of the world to talk about the work that they've been doing, but actually what they've heard during this conference, which I think will be fascinating. And so I want to introduce, my friend Jaime Saavedra, who is the Global Director for Education at the World Bank. And he's done some incredible work around about flagging up the issues to do with equity in particular. Jaime, welcome to this conference. Please know that I am truly grateful for your participation. Secondly, I want to bring Camilla Pereira. Camilla looks after education at the Lemann Foundation, which is not just Brazil's most prominent and impactful family foundations, but actually has a huge voice on a global stage. Camilla, welcome. We also have Rich Henderson. Rich is joining us from the US. Rich is Director for Education for Lenovo, which is a sponsor of this organization, of this event. But more importantly, has a humongous deal to say about what the use and adoption of technologies and solutions to make sure that we improve learning outcomes. And the last person I want to bring on, and she will laugh because you may say, all three of you may say that today's entire benefit of 45,000 people who have registered for this event, is for Andria Zafirakou's book launch. And this is your book, Andria. And so Andria, as you may know, she's the winner of the Global Teacher Prize a few years ago. And her book got released and it's an Amazon bestseller. I'm a trustee of her charity that she gave her entire $1 million to. And I'm pleased to say this book is fantastic. So thank you so much for coming, Andria. I'm actually going to start with you, Andria. Andria, I know that you've been WhatsApping me during the last 3-4 hours. You're an art teacher from London, right? You're celebrated for your teaching excellence, and the pandemic has wreaked havoc even for you. You would readily admit that you're not technologically necessarily more savvy than anyone else. Tell us, what have you heard during this conference that has been inspiring and stimulating for you?
Vikas, it's Saturday and you've got 45,000 teachers on their weekend attending this conference. The energy, the fact that I was dancing, listening to the St. Michael's choir. That was amazing. And I know it was a privilege just to be able to visit the schools from other colleagues. I learned about assessment. I learned about different projects I can do. For example, Michael's photography sessions. I was like, oh, I'm going to nick that idea. So it's just been wonderful to learn so much from different colleagues, but also just hearing, and I wasn't able to hear all of it, and I will rewind, but Andria Zafirakou, the God, who I feel really has our backs, really has the teachers' backs in education, and just hearing from him and what it's like on the outer layer, I think that's been just really brilliant. And so I can't believe how quick this conference has been. It's just flown by, and we need to have more of these, Vikas. Come on, T4, more conferences, please.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Andria. And you have been a great guide to me as well. Camilla, I come to you. The Lemann Foundation has done some incredible work during the pandemic in specific. You, for example, encouraged and led this movement of YouTube being used as a medium and vehicle for delivering education in Brazil, as an example, right? And so do you want to speak a little bit in terms of what is it that you've learned about the use of technology by teachers in this time?
Sure. So hi, Vikas. Hi, everyone. I think that good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are around the globe. And first of all, what an amazing event. I share Andria's enthusiasm. And I think that the main thing that is sitting with me now after watching the panels is this deep, deep admiration for teachers, because as she said, it's Saturday. I know teachers are super overwhelmed with this pandemic. So the fact that they are all here and trying to learn is such an amazing, amazing thing. So I think we've been working here at the Lemann Foundation on three main things during this pandemic. I think one was curriculum prioritization. So as Andreas was saying right now, teach fewer things at deeper level. I think that this is key in this moment, and it's been something that we've been trying to help teachers with. The connectivity, I saw you had a poll on what is the infrastructure around the globe, and we've been working hard here in Brazil to support schools to have access to high-speed broadband, because from an equity perspective, this is what we see that can bridge the gap or deepen the gap, right? So we are really worried about this to make sure that every school has access and is able to use technology in the spirit that we have been debating here during this conference, in the best way to foster learning, right? But this is not the case right now. It's not every school that's able and equipped to do this. So this is a key concern for us here. And I think we've also, as you said, have helped creating and making tools accessible to teachers and students to facilitate remote and hybrid learning. And YouTube, TV channels, everything we could use, we try it. And how teachers have adapted to that is something that always amazes me. So I think this is some of the things we've been doing.
Fantastic. And Rich, you head up education solutions for Lenovo, right? And so Lenovo is one of the biggest hardware companies in the world. Firstly, thank you for your support. But tell us in terms of what you have seen during these times. I'm especially interested in the adoption of technologies in low and middle income countries in particular, right? And so please share your perspectives and insights.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Vikas. And I just want to say hi to all of the teachers that are dialing in from around the world. I see so many people from the Philippines. Hi, everyone. And I know it's late in Southeast Asia, so thank you so much. Middle East and Africa and South America and Brazil and Europe, everybody. It's just so great to see so many engaged teachers. Look, I think there are some really big challenges globally right now in terms of education. There are teacher shortages. There are equity challenges, and hardware. You know, Lenovo as a computer technology company, the hardware can only get you so far, and that's why I've been so inspired by the conversation. And that's where my focus is after hearing this today. It's of course, we will provide the technology, whether it's tablets. We see a lot of Android tablets, Vikas, being used in emerging countries, mobile phones, and of course the laptops, Chromebooks, notebooks, and so forth. But you know, what my focus is on how we can empower teachers to use the technology more effectively, so that they can be the best, regain the honor and the pride of the teaching profession. And I've just been so inspired by the discussion around how content should work, how assessments and how micro assessments should be that. Because, you know, when we're in person as a teacher, we do those micro assessments all the time with students. But when we're now digital, it's much, much harder. And so we need to rethink our assessment systems, and we need to rethink how we're using the technology. But I'm so encouraged by what I've heard today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich. And Jaime, I come to you now. I mean, you're right now, if I'm not mistaken, you're in Peru, your home country, but you're normally in the US, and you look after a humongous, section within the World Bank, which is focused on education. Tell us what you see and what your research has shown. Just like Andreas has spoken about equity issues and all the trends that are coming, we'd love to hear your perspective too. You're on mute, sir.
Thank you very much, Vikas, for the invitation, and great to share this panel with Camilla, Rich, and Andria. And look, I think we're living really extraordinary times in which, first of all, the role that the education community and teachers have had and have today in terms of the welfare of children is absolutely essential. And now more than ever, we have understood that education is a human intensive interaction process, right? That education is really about the connection between the teacher and the student, and between the student and her peers. So actually, I mean, we have, I think, a great step here that has recognized that. And as Rich was saying, technology is absolutely essential. And I think technology is going to be a critical factor in order to move us at scale in terms of improving quality of education. However, the balance, the art is going to be balancing the technology with the human factor. And actually, the art is going to be precisely what Rich was saying, how to use technology to leverage the teacher and to leverage the principal, to leverage the whole education community. But it's precisely, I think that's a critical lesson from this pandemic, right? Is that the future is going to be to balance the art of balancing technology with the human factor in order to provide a better experience to our students. So I think that's one critical lesson for me. The other thing that worries a lot, and that's something that Andreas was very clear, is the issue of equity. Because we do see dramatic learning losses in many low and middle income countries, and also in rich countries. And as we have with that problem, and in addition to that problem, we have that the loss in terms of the education experience and the emotional and the social experience of kids have been completely different from children who have certain level of resources at home, from children that have much less resources. So I think we are living a huge inequality crisis. And if we don't act aggressively in terms of public policies, we could really see an inequality catastrophe. And that will not necessarily reflect today. I mean, it reflects partially in terms of the experience of students today, but it will reflect also in the future, right? Because I mean, this is having an impact, right, in terms of the possibilities of students to have then the capabilities and tools to live a productive life in the future. So I think, I mean, we need to really work with a lot of intensity in the coming months and years, and with a sense of urgency to make sure that we give the students what they need in order to recover from this dramatic experience.
And the step that we're taking as T4, and actually on your encouragement as well, Jaime, has been this survey that we're doing, this global poll. I mean, what would you say to teachers who are watching, the 45,000 that have registered and the many thousands who are watching right now, in terms of participation in a simple tool as a survey? How important is that?
So look, I think as many people say, like crisis comes with opportunities, and the interesting thing is that there have been an infinite number of innovations at the local level, right, at the school and at the classroom level, in terms of how to engage better with children, right, in this very complex context, right. But I think the next challenge is to learn from those lessons and make sure that if someone has found an interesting way, for instance, to assess children in a remote fashion, right, with high tech or low tech, whatever that innovation is that we have more spaces to learn and share those experiences. So I think that is a critical step now. One thing that worries me a bit is the fact that in this type of meetings and in a lot of the analysis that we're doing, we are identifying very interesting ideas that have happened. And the work from Lemann Foundation, for instance, I mean, they are identifying very interesting experiences, right, of things that we can do in order to improve the education experience in context in which you need hybrid learning, in context in which you don't know if you're going to be at home or at school, right, in which you really need to change your pedagogical process. But my worry is that sometimes we'll say, yes, this fantastic innovation, but if that innovation is affecting a few hundred schools, then we need to be cognizant of that. How can we scale that up, right? Because we could have many interesting innovations and not necessarily impacting all students in a country, right? So we could have many innovations in a country like my country, like Peru, right? But those many interesting innovations that happen in the country level at the local level might be impacting only 30% of students, right? I need to worry what's happening with the other 70% of students. So we will always need to think that if there is innovation, in which way that innovation can be translated in such a way that at the end of the day, we make sure that all students, right, have the right education experience that they deserve.
Thank you, Jaime. And Rich, I come to you in terms of like, it's quite interesting in terms of what Jaime and, sorry, the light keeps on going out because I don't move. And so I'm having to wave my hands to make sure the lights go on, which they will. And
that's
so,
energy efficient, though.
Energy efficient. We're all about environmental sustainability around here. We are hosting COP26, don't forget. And so, Rich, in terms of like, you and I have been discussing one of the things that has come through the pandemic is this centrality of school as an institution, right? And so I'm interested to know in terms of like, from a Lenovo perspective, right? What is the future of schools? Because I've gone out and said, teachers will lead this digital revolution. Do you agree with that?
It's a great question, and I remember being at a conference a few years ago, actually the BET conference in the UK, and speaking on a panel about AI, and there was a study that was done, and they taught a math class. This was in China, and they had just finished an AI computer-based AI, or it was a math course, but it was using AI. There were no teachers, and the researcher, the person who was presenting, stood up, and this was a room full of educators. And they stood up and they said, hey, look at this amazing data that we got that shows how this math class, we got this much efficacy and we showed this much learning progress. And I had to interrupt them and say, guys, we're not looking to replace the teacher. The teacher is the central of the classroom, that way that we impart knowledge, we pass knowledge on. What we want to do with technology, because is we want to make better human decision making. And we know that learning, especially in a digital age, requires technology. But we want to use that technology to empower better human decision making, better teaching from the people. I mean, there is a lot of disruption that's happening in education and in higher education. There are different models. There's privatization of public schools. There are new platforms. There are actually direct-to-consumer offerings that we're seeing in a lot of countries that are, you can get certificates, or that's not utilizing our institutions. But that institution is the central foundation of our educational system. And that's where our teachers are going to receive the training, the support that they need, but also where we can guide that social and emotional learning environment for students. So my standpoint and Lenovo's standpoint is that the school and the teacher are central to the future of education.
It's really refreshing to hear a technologist say that. Camilla, in terms of like, what you've been hearing during this conference, is there anything that stands out to you from the Brazilian experience that actually can apply worldwide?
Yeah, so I think because that it's not about the assessment tools or the things we've discussed in details, the lesson plans that I saw that are so important, and the tools themselves. But I think what this conference has also brought, and I think it's true to the Brazilian reality, and it should be worldwide, is this importance of teachers being on the stage to discuss the solution to their own problems. Teachers as protagonists of the conversation around education. I feel that is so key. We are living a moment with this pandemic that we have so many challenges that we're facing. And I think that together with health workers, probably teachers are the ones facing the biggest challenges we now have. And if we don't have communities of practice to problem solve and to move forward, it's going to be very hard that policymakers or foundations or experts around universities can find the solutions, right? So when I see the assessment tools that teachers developed, when I see the lesson plans tools that teachers developed, I think that that's where we're gonna find the direction, the guidelines we need to move forward. So I'm really happy to see teachers coming to this stage, this global stage that you've put together. I think you've asked Jaime about the survey, and I think it's so important that teachers engage in that, because making sure that teachers' voice is heard in the national and global arena is going to be key for us to find the good solutions we need to find to overcome this huge challenge that the pandemic has brought.
It's a great question, and Andria, I come to you actually. In this book, Those Who Can, teach, published by Bloomsbury. It's on Amazon for everyone to buy. In here you actually take a very different approach to influencing government. In that you talk about when you have this exalted status, how government tried to, the British government tried to actually make you do something that you didn't want, and you stood up. And so when it comes to the pandemic, what is it that you think that teachers should be doing to make sure that governments hear their voice?
The first poll that we did during this broadcast was talking about whether or not technology has improved. And the answer was yes. And what Ross said, which I think more or less evidences the fact that teachers are, and he said this, intelligent and skillful people. We come up with solutions. We're the ones who are dealing with so much more than anyone can imagine, not just teaching the curriculum, but the other things that we do with the pastoral things. And so it's just been it's been wonderful having these opportunities to have teachers being celebrated. But I think it's wonderful also that what you said, Vikas, the fact that many governments around the world have been supporting T4's work and have been taking part in that. I think the answer to the problems of societies are in our classrooms, my classrooms and the classrooms of absolutely everyone, all of your viewers there. So the more opportunities we have for teachers to broadcast, to showcase, to celebrate, and for people to actually watch this and be part of that community, I think something powerful can happen. And I think this is the great change which Andreas was talking about before in the previous session. So, and Rich, I'm just so, I can't tell you how, like, the goosebumps I've had from just listening to you when you said that your organization really wants to make sure that teachers acknowledge the fact that we are the ones who will be driving technology and not the other way around.
Wonderful, thank you. Just for the record, we've had 13 governments actually support this event. Ecuador, from your part of the world, Jaime, Ecuador, Colombia. Camilla will tell you that she's been in touch with every province minister in Brazil. We've got Western Cape in South Africa, Nigeria, Jordan, Lebanon, UAE, Palestine, Georgia, Moldova, Malaysia, the Philippines. I mean, that's just testament to actually the sea change that we're seeing in terms of just everyone recognizing that we need as many opportunities as we can to make sure the teacher workforce is skilled, conversant, understand how it's happened. And the method that we use is that of peer-to-peer learning, right? And so all the presenters that we've had have immense classroom experience, something that I definitely can't speak about. Jaime, you as a former education minister definitely can't. Camilla, I'm not aware if you're a teacher or not. And Rich, forgive me, I don't know if you were a teacher, but I know Andria is. And so I'm really pleased that you could join us. Jaime, one final question I want to ask you. Andreas and all the conversation has been about public policy and government, right? And so the conversation is, come post-pandemic, there's a risk to education budgets around the world. What is the point that firstly, do governments listen to you when it comes to actually resisting these cuts? Because if anything, we should be investing in the sector as opposed to cutting. I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
So look, I think we are now in the middle of that discussion about budgets, but I think that it will end up reflecting and will end up proving how important is education for each country, right? Because at the end of the day, we all know that the challenges in terms of budgets are huge. I mean, we're in the middle of a war, right? And in a war, you have astonishing amounts of expenditures that you need to do on the health front and the economic recovery front, and that's understandable. But on the other hand, I mean, we need to understand as well that the crisis that we're living in education is dramatic, and the solutions will require a lot of, effort and effectiveness of teachers, yes, and of the whole education community, yes. But there's no magic. There are some things that will require more resources. Right, it's impossible to do more remedial, to get more technology, to retrain teachers in many areas just for free. I mean, there are many things that it's not about being more effective or more efficient. Many things will need more resources, and we see a very heterogeneous response. So we do see both the sense of urgency and the understanding that we need to invest in this generation, and it is urgent to do it in some countries. And we see in other countries that, everyone says that education is important, right? But not necessarily that is reflected, right, on how much real resources are being put in that. And I think so this really requires that there is an understanding that we need a social contract, right, in which we as countries, we put all the resources that are needed in order to continue investing in education, and particularly invest in this generation, those kids who are today in school. And one important additional factor that we need to understand is that all countries, in order to fight this war, are getting into debt. And that's correct, right? You need to expand your expenditures much more than your current taxes, so you need to get into debt. Increase your debt, and that's normal, and that's what you need to do in catastrophic situations like this ones. But who are going to pay this debt in the next 20 or 30 years? Is precisely the generation that is being formed today, right? Is the generation that today is in school, right? And we need to invest in that generation, right? So that's something that we need to take into account. We cannot tell that generation and tell them, look, sorry guys, there are other more important things than you, right? So we need to spend on something else, right? We just can't say that, right? And that requires then a collective effort, right? And the voices of everyone, right? To say, look, no, we really need to care about education, but that caring about education is not words, right? At the end of the day, there's no magic, right? That we really need to commit politically in terms of human resources and efforts, and financially, right? To make sure that we can provide the right service in a context, right? In which we really need to recover for a very long period, something that we have never lived, right? That have interrupted the education process of many children.
So I'm really proud of the fact that, when people talk about EdTech, often what happens is that they think about the startup ecosystem, or they think about, the VC funding ecosystem. But today, the angle that we have taken is about the teacher ecosystem and the use of tech. And I think we will all agree that this is a change in the way that this conversation has been in the recent past, in that we are putting teachers at the heart of this discussion, as I think they should always have been. And so when it comes to the big point that I think we're making, is that, and I've said this in this session, earlier, is that I do believe that schools and teachers will lead from the front when it comes, because that is exactly what they have been doing over the last year and a half, especially when system leaders around the world have kind of failed us in their responses and in their planning for such pandemics, right? And so these kind of crises. And so we've seen this most incredible acts of innovation, invention, and just energy that's been exuded by the teacher workforce globally, that when we put on this event, it's to firstly recognize that and put them at the heart of this discussion. And secondly, we hope that under with your auspices, Jaime, Camilla, Rich, and to some degree, Andria, if the government still likes you, we hope that you will be able to actually take this message into all the quarters that you occupy and the conversation that you have, in that bring teacher voice to the table, because their perspective will lead to the success or the failure of the mainstreaming of technology and tools.
One thing, Vikas, one quick thing is that the government will have to still like Andria's, because it's not only a matter of making sure that many schools have the right innovations and there are innovations in many classrooms, because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that that happens in all classrooms.
Correct.
Right? And the challenge of public policy is to make sure that all students, absolutely everyone, right, has the access to that innovative teacher, right, and that the innovative schools that can solve the problems that the world is facing today. However, we need to, that's something that has to be in our chip always, that it has to be something that we make sure that all students have the right education experience.
Well, I want to thank all of you for taking the time from all the different parts of the world that you have joined. I am grateful again to our sponsors, Lenovo and the Lemann Foundation and D2L and Pango for your support for this. But I do also really value your partnership in terms of encouragement and direction that we are taking. So thank you all so much. And Andria, I hope we sell many more of these. And so if you are on Amazon, the book is called Those Who Can, Teach by Andria Zafirakou. Please do go and buy, because I think it's an incredible read. Thank you all so much for your time. And I'd like to ask you to just hang on behind backstage for a little bit, because we have a great ending to this event. Are you all fans of Freddie Mercury? Freddie Mercury, yeah, Freddie Mercury. You like Freddie? We have Freddie Mercury coming to this to close this conference with a concert. So just don't leave. Of course, if you need to leave, please do. But we hope you can stay. On that note, thank you so much, and I'm going to move you backstage, and I'm going to bring my co-conspirator back on front, and that is Dr. Saba Kidwai. Saba, we're there now. We're at the closing 100 meters of this marathon that we have run today. You as an educator, what is it that you picked up in today's conversation that you think would be enormously useful and insightful in the way teachers approach their roles?
Yeah, as I was listening, I was tweeting as well. I was listening to the panel, and I was reminded of the work of Eric Brynjolfsson from the Second Machine Age, where one of the last lines they share is, technology is not destiny, we shape destiny. And I think a resounding theme that we heard today from the teachers, from all the different panelists, is that while, yes, technology is an incredibly powerful force, it's best used in service of humans. And so how we stay, human-centered, how we lean into the needs of one another and develop that empathy to drive innovation, I think is going to be critical, I think, in determining what society looks like and what opportunities look like for everyone, as many of the panelists also shared. I think another key takeaway that I really appreciated was just the emphasis and the focus on the teacher from policymakers and other leaders. I think that's something that teachers are really going to be excited to hear, and I think that idea I think was shared earlier about being able to do purposeful work, and not having to be bogged down in all the meaningless tasks. I think today's conversation was inspiring, motivating, and I think is going to be really uplifting for teachers to hear that this is how policymakers and this is how other teachers are thinking and are doing things around the world.
Thanks a lot. I also want to now bring Andy back. We saw you at the beginning, Andy. Your hand must be hurting. You've been drawing quite a bit. Andy, thank you so much for all these incredible graphics. And they all look very similar. I think my friend Jaime would also admit that looks like him, a good-looking guy. And so, Andy, what is it that you've heard, that you've been listening, that actually resonates?
Well, as a mother with two boys, I'm in such awe of all the teachers. And again, coming out on a Saturday, giving up their time, yeah, respect.
Well, please know that we're really grateful for all these graphics that you've done, and when we publish our report, all of this will be in there. So thank you so much for capturing everything.
Yeah, they'll go out quickly. They'll come out very quickly as well.
Very grateful. Thank you so much. And so we're left with saying a few thank yous. Saba and I and the T4 team would like to obviously thank again our sponsors. Secondly, again, I cannot stress the importance of all of our coalition that we've built, right? So we have 70 odd country ambassadors from around the world who have done just incredible feats of volunteering and service to make sure this event is delivered. This is not just about myself and Saba. There's all these armies of people who are so large-hearted that they have contributed towards the success of this event. And I want to say to each and every single one of you country ambassadors, thank you so much. And the same applies to our alliance partners. These are education NGOs that do incredible work around the world. Some are really huge, some are really small, but we're all in this together. We're all learning this together. We all agree in this cause. And there are some 86 of you now, and we only opened up applications in January. I'm really thankful to you for your support, and I look forward to building from here as well. Please know that all of your work is most appreciated. I suppose I'm left with telling you about the feedback survey. And so when, there'll be an email that goes out to all 45,000 of you, and in there will be a feedback survey. Now, the question that we get asked is, where is our certificate of attendance? Well, I'll tell you one thing. You finish the feedback survey, and at the end of the survey, there's a link that takes you to your certificate. So please provide your feedback so that you can gain your certificate. And please be honest in your responses. It helps us improve. Like I said at the beginning, all of these things have happened because we listen to you. You tell us individually, you give us feedback on our surveys, and you drive intelligence gathering, which I think is really important. And likewise, I want to end with this global poll that we're doing. It is also on our website. We want thousands and thousands of teachers from around the world to take part. Can I please encourage you to do that as well? Now, Saba, I'm really excited because we have amongst us our own Freddie Mercury. And I want to welcome my friend and teacher from the north of England, from Leeds, Jimmy Rotherham. Jimmy, hi.
Hi, Vikas. Hello.
And so the idea is to end this conference on a high. And so we're going to be over to you. So when Jimmy finishes his performance, we will call it a day. Please know that I am grateful to all of you for logging on Saturday in the thousands. It's been inspiring, and I'm really grateful for your support. And we look forward to seeing you at World Education Week in October. Jimmy, over to you.
If there's one thing that the global crisis has taught us, it's two things really. That teachers, despite all the challenges that we've had, we're pretty unstoppable, and nothing will stop us. So Vikas wanted a nice uplifting song. This is one of the most uplifting songs I know of, and it's about being unstoppable. And it's also about joy, and teaching is a joy, it's a privilege, it's such a beautiful job for us to have. So this song says it all. And I left my mustache in the wash and my vest, so you'll forgive me not being fully in costume. Tonight I'm gonna have myself a real good time. I feel alive, and the world turning inside out, yeah, floating around in ecstasy, but don't stop me now. Don't stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time. I'm having a good time. I'm a shooting star, listen to the sky like a tiger, defying the laws of gravity. I'm a shooting star in the sky like Lady Godiva. I'm gonna move, there's no stopping me. Yeah, I'm gonna do the sky, yeah. 200 degrees, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit. Traveling at the speed of light, I wanna make you supersonic than I do. Don't stop me call, but don't stop me, cause I'm having a good time. Don't stop me, cause I'm having a good time. I don't wanna stop at all. They're calling Mr. Fahrenheit. Traveling at the speed of light. I wanna make a supersonic man out of you. Don't stop me now. I'm having such a good time. Having a ball. Don't stop me now if you wanna have a good time. Just give me a call, but don't stop me, cause I'm having a good time. Don't stop me as I'm having a good time. I don't wanna stop at all. Da do da do da, da do da, da do 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 do, da do da. Thank you.
Bravo, Jimmy. You definitely know how to bring it down, and thank you all for your time. I've been remiss in not thanking my own team. Kirsten, Lawrence, OBJ, Your Excellency, Daniel, Dolce & Gabbana. Thank you so much for all your time and all your support. This event would not be possible without you. Thank you all, and good night.